Hello, and thank you for joining us for this special edition webinar, part of our Global Best Projects Award celebration. I'm Corinne Grinapol, and I'm an assistant editor at Engineering News Record. Before we begin our program, I'd like to thank our Global Best Project sponsors. They are our Global Gold sponsors, American Global, B.L. Harbert, CCECC, China Civil Engineering and Construction Corporation, and ENCA, as well as our Global Silver sponsors, OEC, Odebrecht Engineering and Construction, and Shanxi Construction Investment Group Company Limited. We hope you've watched the virtual award ceremony last week. If you haven't yet, you can register to view it for free at globalbestprojects.com. With the change to an online program this year, it gives us the opportunity to discuss in more depth the challenges and successes of the Project of the Year, Renovación Urbana de Colón, or the Urban Renewal of Colón, with several of the project team members. Before we get started, I'd like to play the video about the project we created and showed at our Global Best Projects Award celebration last week.
Best Project, Renovation Restoration, and Project of the Year, Urban Renewal of Cologne. The team working on Cologne's revitalization transformed an urban center for 25,000 residents who had been living in run-down, condemned houses at high risk of structural collapse and in unsanitary conditions with open sewage and disease. Crews constructed thousands of 2- and 3-bedroom apartments within the nearly 200-acre project area. Police and firefighter headquarters were added. New recreational areas include 4 baseball fields, 13 basketball courts, 12 soccer fields, and 29 parks. Under the plan, 9 historic buildings were restored while residents occupied them, alongside the 8-decade-old municipal market, a heritage site that mandated the preservation of its facade. Residents also had the opportunity to receive worker training and participate in the project. Cologne experiences 8 months of heavy rain, so the project team endured working in the same conditions that the project was intended to fix, with its new sanitary and rainwater system to handle the frequent inundations. Judges praised the project for giving residents a fresh start, with structures that also authentically reflect Cologne's cultural roots.
Really outstanding work. And now I'm really happy to introduce our speakers. We have Tito Serra, Executive Director of Odebrecht Engineering and Construction, Jessica Aguirre, Engineering Responsible or Engineering Lead for Odebrecht Engineering and Construction, Liliana Lopera, CEO of Gestión Urbana, Marcelo de la Rosa, Vice President at Plades, and Héctor S. Samaniego, Infrastructure Project Manager at CUSA. And with that, I'll turn it over to the team.
Hello. We are very excited for being selected the Best Project of the Year and being part of this ENR webinar. Today we are going to talk a little bit about our project, the Urban Renewal of Cologne, under the category of Renovation and Restoration. We're going to talk about the project team, the project description, overcoming global challenges and international teamwork, safety, innovation and contribution to the industry and to the community, construction quality and excellence in craft work, functional and aesthetic quality of the design. Starting with the project team, the owner is the Ministry of Housing together with the government of Panama. The general contractor is Constructora Norberto Odebrecht and Constructora Urbana, creating el Consorcio Nuevo Colón. Our lead designer is Gestión Urbana, and the designer for the Colón municipal market, SUMA, and our civil structural and MEP designer is Plades. Today we have a global team with us, engineer Héctor Samaniego from Panama, Jessica Aguirre, engineer from Venezuela, engineer Marcelo de la Rosa from Argentina, and architect Liliana Lopera from Colombia, and myself from Brazil. Now, talking a little bit about our project description. This was a public initiative of the federal government of Panama due to the fact that Colón City suffered a lot from floodings, had a lot of abandoned historical buildings and recurring fires, and the residents live in precarious residence with collapsed system. It included the engineering, the procurement, and the construction and social management of the entire project. And our project was considered the most important urban renovation project in Central America and the most ambitious in Panama. It was oriented to promote the renovation of the historic center of Colón, the construction of 5,380 housing solutions, the restoration of historic buildings, and the creation of public areas in downtown Colón. All this was done to generate better life conditions and quality of life for Colón's residents. Our main objective was to promote significant changes in the quality of life of families that live in buildings with high risk of structural collapse and inhuman condition, where the residents were exposed to open sewage and endemic diseases, promoting sustainable socio-economic development of Colón City. The project was split in three different components, starting with Colón urban infrastructure, recovery of historic buildings with Colón Municipal Market and Bamboo Lane, and finally, Altos de los Lagos residential. Now I will pass to Hector to talk a little bit about Colón urban infrastructure.
Thanks, Tito. Well, I'm Hector Samaniego, infrastructure project manager for both Colón City and Los Lagos housing development components of the project, as well as site representative partner of the joint venture for the infrastructure of the project. Now I'm going to leave these figures of quantities here, and I'll put some context into the job performed in Colón City. The project area in Colón City downtown is roughly 1.5 kilometers long by 1 kilometer wide, with 40,000 inhabitants at the moment that we received the notice to proceed. This gives you a population density of 25,000 people per square kilometer. To have a comparison parameter, Brooklyn has a population density of a little more of 14,000 people per square kilometer. This is Colón City has density that has the density 1.7 higher than Brooklyn, just to have an idea. Also, another point to consider is that the unemployment rate was about 25%, and that's one of the highest in the whole Panama country. In the very city of Colón, no heavy public investment in public utilities has been done in the past 30 years, no maintenance to the existing systems. Having these conditions to start a project, and you have this $500 million project coming to your neighborhood, impose an immense social pressure that my partner will explain further. A little bit of history. Colón City was founded in 1855 for the Panama Railroad, that was the first railroad that connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It was built over a small island, semi-submerged muck, made by muck, that was through the years widened with any type of disposed material that was coming from the railroad construction and later on from the Panama Canal construction at the first years of the last century. Its population is mainly descendants of Caribbean people that first came to work for the railroad construction and later for the Panama Canal construction, and that they decided to stay in Panama. At the end, we came up with a completely flat city whose highest road level elevation is roughly 2 meters above sea level. As you may imagine, this is a nightmare for a gravity sewage system, as well as to drain the storm water from rains. Also, each of the systems, the sewage and the storm drain, have collecting points that are actually a couple of meters below sea level. These conditions are very different from the conditions that we had to deal with in Los Lagos housing development, which is consisted of a higher elevation and much better materials, construction materials, that also my partners will comment later on. As you may notice, in order to install all the ground piping, we had to basically turn the city upside down and put all the pieces back together to separate back both systems, the drain and the sewage, as they were supposed to work since decades ago. Also, we had none whatsoever reliable location of existing utilities to work into the city. For as long as 100 years, different companies, either private or public, has been installing underground duct banks and utilities without any control. So that was a problem that we have to face, together with the fact that we had to work around a complete destroyed sewage system to replace and clean 34 kilometers of pipe. Meanwhile, they were in use. So also, we have this heavy rain season that lasts 8 months a year. Actually, that's why the canal is there. And we had to replace 22 kilometers of storm drain pipes, mostly during the rain season. And actually, most of those 22 kilometers are below seawater and below the water table. This is without taking into consideration the other work that was working around the city, such as duct banks, road, and parks rehabilitation. So we had to start closing down the few public spaces that they existed to start the rehabilitation. You can see this piece of the park fenced, so we could work inside. Also, since basically all the sewage and storm drain systems, that includes 3 sewage pump stations and 2 existing stormwater pump stations, were completely collapsed. As you see in this picture, most of the waste water comes and runs over the surface of the roads, contaminating all the area and destroying the pavement. That's something that we had to repair too. You add to this scenario that the people were living in failed structures, and with all the frequent thunderstorms, you get constant floodings with rain and sewage water mix that remains on the city for hours until they drain by itself. Also adding the risk of collapsing structures due to excavation and vibration. All this without taking into consideration the risk of having structures collapse due to excavation and vibration. So in this sense, part of the task was to give the population a break and restore their public spaces. Meanwhile, we kept on going to solve the collapse underground infrastructure. So together with all the piping replacement, we increased the hydraulics by both increasing the diameter and having a better slope, as well as widening of the discharge channels to the sea. This involved a raise in rainwater pumping capability from the existing 20,000 gallons per minute for the whole city. This is to 2,500,000 gallons per minute. That will be 4.5 times increase in pumping capability. Also, sewage pumping was upgraded from 5,000 gallons per minute to 20,000 gallons per minute directly to an upcoming treatment facility. All this rehab, of course, on all the new pump stations considers state-of-the-art automation, damage control, garbage and solids extraction that was non-existent before. So at the end, we did perform and proudly finish the work, restoring back Colón to be a reliable and healthy place to live in. Living in the past, the surface, running water, and looking to the future with a sound infrastructure and increased and renewed public spaces. Now, Jessica is following.
Hi, my name is Jessica Aguirre. I'm the engineer responsible from OEC to Altos de los Lagos, the Colón Municipal Market, and Bamboo Lane. So now we're going to talk about the recovery of historic buildings, starting for Bamboo Lane. And in this case, what we see now is the situation that was before. When we get to the project, it was a really terrible situation in all ways. The roof were totally collapsed, the system, the plumbing, the sewage and the rain store systems were totally damaged, and the internal external facade was totally destroyed. So we have a goal of getting the buildings with uniformity and a better way of living for the residents. Because at the beginning, when we get there, they didn't have any public spaces to be in the community. The children were playing among the sewage and the polluted water. So it was a really bad situation for the Bamboo Lane residents. After we finished our works, it changed completely, because now they have even basketball courts to play, they had public spaces, they have even new gardens and bench to share between neighbors. They have a completely renewed facade, even internal and external, and in the last floor of the buildings, they have a new roof, so they are not having the problem of rain inside their apartments anymore. So now this is the new aerial view of Bamboo Lane, and you see the change after the works we did there. So it was amazing. And this project was with 9 buildings and housing 420 benefit families. So when we get our job done there, we definitely see the change in those peoples, and now they have another way of living, and their life were completely much better and with quality of life. After that, we went to the Colón Municipal Market, and the situation was even worse. For the people who hadn't visited Colón, Colón is a city where the gastronomy is very important for them. So for the Colón residents, the market was a very important place, because it was their meeting place. Every Sunday, every weekend, the people from Colón are always going to the municipal market, having some different kind of food, some fresh vegetables and fruits. So it was completely destroyed. When you get there in the inside, as you can see on the screen, it was a completely disaster. People didn't have any kind of order. So when we start redesigning the market, we have an amazing challenge, because we couldn't change the external facade or the roof of the market. We can change and redesign inside, trying to adapt to the people's need, even to the users and also to the vendors. And this was a huge challenge, because the Colón Municipal Market is a protected building. This market was opened in 1936, and it was declared a historic architectural heritage by the National Direction of Historical Heritage of Panama. So this place, it's even important in the historical way and also in the community way for the Colón residents. So this place is historically remembered for its cultural and Caribbean roots and its ancestral gastronomy. When we talk about Altos de los Lagos Residencial, this is an amazing part of our project. This component is very important because Altos de los Lagos was the new city where the residents of Colón, or in the center of Colón, were going to be moved to have their new quality of life. So this component of the project was a record time construction in 49 months, allowing the goal of social inclusion and integration for people, getting more than 25,000 residents benefit from Colón. Also, we could construct more than 5,000 apartments. It was 5,380 apartments with a project that was a social interest project, but was designed with an amazing component of public areas and non-resident residential buildings over an area of more than 700,000 square meters. Also, for the design, it was very important to give the Altos de los Lagos restaurant another components such as sports fields, also parks and public spaces, and also residential buildings like the police station and the fire department station. The residential include one wastewater treatment plant and 2 booster stations. It has 1 million gallon water tank and pumping station. It has 1 police station, 1 fire department station. It has diverse commercial areas because we try to promote the small business to grow in the Colón benefits. So they were going to receive not only a new apartment, but also a new opportunity for working next to their apartments. Also, there was a central building with institutional services where the new residents could pay for the rent and also could pay for the electricity and the water services. And finally, we have more than 75,000 square meters of public spaces. Among those spaces were football and baseball fields, basketball courts, sidewalks, bike paths, parks, and playground for children. The important part of these public spaces was that they were distributed among all the 10 sectors in the project. So if you live in the first sector that we delivered to the new residents or in the last one, you have the same opportunity to enjoy these new facilities. So people, when we're living there, they feel they were treated with the same policies and the same benefits that the residents. Now we're going to talk about the Altos de los Lagos architectural component. So we have 2 types of buildings. The first one was the type H that has the majority of the apartments. It has 3,270 apartments with an area of 57 square meters. The other type of apartment was the L apartment with 2,110 apartments and an area of 48 square meters. The principal difference between these both type of architectures was that when the social workers started their investigations in the city of Colón, they found out that the typical family of Colón was really different. They didn't have both a mother and father figure, but they only have the mother figure. So it was not a family of 2 or 3 children, it was more than that. So they found out that we need to create an apartment with more than 2 bedrooms. So this was the first time in Panama that a housing solution of social interest had 3 bedrooms with 57 square meters, trying to apply to the real needs of the new residents of Colón. And this is the current situation that we have now in Altos de los Lagos. And we are extremely proud of that because our main goal was give these people the opportunity of social inclusion. And if you see the picture before, the children were playing in the streets. They didn't have a secure and adequate place to live or even to play and enjoy their condition of being children. So now they have a new house and we could definitely add quality, dignity, and security for more than 25,000 Colón residents. Now we're going to talk about another important part of the project, which is the overcoming global challenges and the international teamwork. First of all, when we start the design of the Altos de los Lagos and the urban renewal of Colón project, we try to include and integrate to the design the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This was really important because our goal was not only give a new place to live, it was to give the conditions or the right conditions for people to develop a new life and improve their life. So the UN have 17 sustainable goals for development, and we proudly achieved 13 of those goals. So our project in the design was focused on reducing poverty, generating good health and well-being for the residents, to give the people quality education, and that's the reason why the school is in the center or in the heart of the project, as we used to call it. We try to give gender equality and clean and water sanitation, try to reduce the electrical energy or the use of the electricity with cross ventilation in the apartments and use of the natural light, and always try to focus our solution in trying to generate a better climate condition, not only for the new residents, but for the complete community in Altos de los Lagos. Another challenge that we have was related to the materials and the logistics with global suppliers. Our project had to deliver not only 2 or 3 buildings. We had the necessity to deliver 185 buildings. So we have to guarantee that our cost efficiency, quality, availability, and uniformity of materials were supplied and also applied in all apartments. If we try to understand the logistics with our materials, we had materials coming from China, France, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and even the United States, with more than 65% of imported materials. For this, we need to develop a management system called Kanban, which is actually a Japanese technology, which means to track continuously the inventory and prepare kits for assembly on field. That means that we are trying to reduce improvisation in our workers, so we gave them the kits completely done, and they just have to deliver the assembly on field. So we could reduce waste and inefficiency in almost 3% waste. So it was a really good goal to achieve in our project, because we could control, since the engineering process, the delivery of materials on field and the productivity of our production team. Another amazing challenge that we have was related to the workforce. In this project, many of the workers, they have their first work opportunity in their life. And this is really important because the majority of the workers, the 95% of our workers, were actually from Colón. So these Colón people, they didn't have an opportunity before in their life. Many of them, they didn't even have a decent job before. They were, some of them were just getting out jail, so they didn't even finish the preliminary school. So it was for us really important, because we could train them and try to relocate them in a decent work and give them the opportunity to work with us. And after that, when we finish the project, they have the opportunity to work with another company. So they were receiving a new opportunity to live in a decent way in their life. Also, another challenge that we have was related to the extreme climate that Colón and also Panama has. And this is an amazing challenge to execute the construction works with the daily life of the Colón people, which required a really coordinated process of planning and to overcome the extreme climate conditions of Colón. For the people that hadn't visited Panama and Colón, we had 8 months of heavy rainfall for the year. So we only have 4 months of sunny weather, and we need to minimize and reduce the impact or the negative impact, not only in the community in Colón, which have to live alongside the construction works and really difficult climate, but also in the project, which we need to perform in the right plan that we developed since the beginning. Another important component was the the challenge that means to work with people that were the actual living residents in the apartments. In the case of Bamboo Lane, we were challenged with the opportunity to train and hire the residents of Bamboo Lane as project workers. And this was an immeasurable value because we have the chance to become this opportunity and give these people the chance to work in their own apartments. So the motivation that they have was amazing, and they were really, really happy and motivated to be teach to do these different kinds of jobs. A similar situation happened in the Colón municipal market, where vendors were temporarily transferred to a provisional market next to the original Colón's market. So we could minimize the negative impacts in the income generation for the vendors during the construction phase. Instead of that, they became actually a really good part of our design team, which help us in all these stages of the construction process and the designing, because they give an amazing feedback in the optimization of the use of the different areas inside the market. So they were always trying to collaborate with us with a really fluent communication about how was the better use of the different areas in the internal market. So now I'm going to give this place to Marcelo, who is going to talk about another global challenges. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Hi there. My name is Marcelo de la Rosa, Vice President from Plades, Panamanian company, in charge of the infrastructure design. I'll talk about a very special aspect of the construction of the Alto de los Lagos project related to constructability and earthwork optimization. This is the Gatun material. The Gatun formation was a witness of the isthmus evolution, finally emerging from the sea some 3 to 4 million years ago. Its lithology contains a mix of sandstone, siltstone, agglomerate, and marine fossils. Its fossil content has served the paleontologists as a unique source of interpretation of the eras. It is also a suitable material for construction, used in the Panama Canal construction process since inception, and continues to be a dominant rock material source for the Colón area, and has been used for the multi-building foundation in over 180 buildings of the housing complex. Also used as a fill material, the construction process is very demanding on how to handle it. It has to be cut in large chunks of 40 centimeters, no weathering, no stockpiling admitted, almost immediately put in place and strongly compacted to at least 98% of the Proctor test, Proctor standard test. Some 2.8 million cubic meters were cut and filled in the project, mostly of Gatun material. It was conformed into slopes as high as 15 meters and as steep as 5:1, as you can see here, having withstood some of the worst climate events in the area, such as Hurricane Otto in 2016, pouring 300 millimeters per day along 3 days with no deterioration. Special care was put in the analysis and monitoring of the behavior of the building foundations. Each one was supported by a 25 by 8 meter slab, 40 centimeters thick, transmitting some 7 to 8 tons per square meter to the ground. The chart down on the right shows the settlement a long time of 12 of the most critical buildings, the worst of which shows a stabilized value of around 25 millimeters, 1 inch, within the admissible range established by the Panamanian regulations. However, there's a very crucial aspect to be considered for construction use of the Gatun material. It cannot be submerged, soaked, at risk of losing its integrity. Therefore, drainage becomes a matter of the most serious attention in the project. 3 layers of drains were extensively incorporated: the upper for the surface water conveyance, a subsurface system for the infiltration from the pavement, and the lower and most important, the deep drainage system to dry off the existing water courses that traversed the lot and infiltration from the adjacent lake. There is a lake adjacent to the project's property that is at the elevation of 15 meters, 16 meters over mean sea level, at least 5 meters higher than the project itself. So there's infiltration from the lake to the project as well. As shown in the picture, a drainage system was put in place to cope with this water courses. Besides the before mentioned drainage system, other large water courses crossing the property, such as the Cocosolo River we see here. This is a large river that conveys 100 cubic meters per second in flooding events. These rivers were diverted outside and duly channelized. However, a construction over the abandoned river floodplain was also a challenge. 12 of the originally buildings placed there were moved down south to another sector. But for the others, a 6-meter high terrace was built early on, acting as a precharge, and the consolidation process also had to be carefully followed. As a result of these, only one of the buildings and the wastewater treatment plant were founded on piles, which was actually a great achievement. Now I'll pass on to Tito. Thank you very much.
Safety was a very important component in our project, because we strongly believe that with prevention, we guarantee the life of all our team members. The team's commitment to safety began with the top management of the project being a priority for all team members by integrating and training workers in the safety culture. All workers assigned to the field activities participated in prior induction for work and specific and continuous training. Based on that, the program helped prevent accidents and control the incident rate, which was reduced by more than 40%. More than 4.1 million man-hours were invested in the project in training with safety, which means that 1.4% of the whole man-hours in the project were dedicated to training our workers. We invested $2.1 million in personal protective equipment and collective equipment in order to provide a safe environment for all our team members. Talking about innovation and contribution to the industry and community, we had an industrialized metallic formwork construction system which provided a reduction with the waste material, provided also best finishes and quality to the work. It reduced the cost and the lead times to execute the project. It gave us also flexibility to mobilize the labor from the area which did not have the expertise in this type of construction. And also with this type of system, we could adapt this metallic formwork to the desired configuration required. Regarding the concrete, we use over 130,000 cubic meters, which represented 18,323 concrete mixers of self-leveling concrete. We had to do a very detailed engineering study with synergy of our strategic partner Cemex for this self-leveling mix for the buildings. And this ideal mix design with workability and resistance at early stages was required for us to release the metallic formwork in 16 hours after casting the formwork system. We also used the BIM technology in our project for us to have a real-time track of the execution of the work and also to coordinate all the supply system for us to have the required material to perform according to the schedule of the project. This also helped us to detect any kind of interference between the different disciplines of the works being executed in the project. All the apartments on the first level, which represented 1,080 apartments, were designed for handicapped people, and all 180 buildings and leisure areas have universal accessibility. So this was also a requirement that we had in the project to give a better accessibility to everyone in the project. All engineered urban parameters were adopted to allow universal accessibility as per Panama regulations. As you can see here, all the blocks in the project were detailed designed for all accessibility to everybody, and also to create an environment where everybody was on the same level. There was nobody on top of anyone. These are another detail that shows all the building, how we detail the location of the buildings, providing a concise and unified building synergy. Talking a little bit about the materials, engineering of materials, we use PVC ceilings and windows. And this was done because we consider it was very important to consider this into the construction process, not only the execution, but the durability, as well as the cost of the materials that we were going to apply in the construction phase. Using PVC ceilings and windows brought us versatility, comfort, and efficiency due to the excellent thermal and acoustic insulation, and reducing also the energy consumption for the residents of Alto de los Lagos. We also look at the project identity and branding by the architecture, by using the color, playing with the colors of the buildings, taking into consideration the Congo culture, which we really understood that we need to emphasize through the color management of the 180 buildings, the traditional values, which highlighted that the Caribbean is culture and its color. It also provided the idiosyncrasy through the color of the Cologne community. One very important aspect of our project was the social management of our future residents. We had many programs developed with more than 23 ONGs and government agencies, where we can highlight some of them, like the New Colony Family, which was modules where the future resident had to participate before receiving the keys of the apartment, that they were trained from how to behave with other neighbors up to culture of payment of the rent and utilities. We also created neighborhood boards. We also had programs related to sports and arts, and programs that also took care of our elder adults. So this component of the social inclusion and integration was very important for the sustainability of our project. These are some of the photos of showing what we did at the Alto de los Lagos project. This is an aerial view of the new life at Alto de los Lagos. Our kids playing safe, sports, and also social leisure for the kids.
Now we're going to talk about the construction quality and excellence in the craft work. First of all, for us, it was really important to have knowledge transfers in our proactive team. We found out that our team was really motivated, and it was a proactive, synergistic, and multidisciplinary team with a single and clear goal. We need to create industrialized processes involving all workers in policies and training, generating safety, quality, efficiency, and cost reduction. For that, we try to participate in many different events outside and inside the project, like different congress of the Engineering School of Panama, health fairs, engineering weeks of the University of Panama, social media in TV and radio programs, always having awareness with handicap, and participation with chambers of commerce and social committees, trying to explain to people in the community the changes that they were going to have in the new life in Altos de los Lagos. For you guys to have an idea, we have almost 425 visitors per year in all the 4 years that the project lasts. Also, we were really aware of training programs and knowledge transfer with all team members. We have different programs for engineers, for managers, for constructors, for workers, and we have to promote the participation in all of these different programs. We have Introduction to All Culture, different programs for workers like Renewing Us and Servir, which were focused in promoving productivity in terms of safety, quality, and cost efficiency. So our leaders were going to be trained in leadership skill and productive teams to get better results as we possibly can. Also, we have different programs focused on wellness, in certifying the skills of our team, and individual development of every one of the members of the project. In terms of quality, we developed a really important program of quality control based on different procedures and instructions. We developed 98 procedures that were in different types, like operational procedures, management procedures, and finally work instructions. The quality control program allowed the construction process in compliance with the work schedule. Also, our procedures were applied to all the services and different processes on field, and also in the administrative activities. And we have a laboratory on field for real-time testing. So we have a really good communication with the production team instead of giving them the results and the feedback of all the activities that were tested. And finally, also contracts include strict clauses related to quality control and also to safety ways to control the project. In the quality control, we developed a self-leveling concrete that was focused on getting the best mix, the best concrete mix for the apartments. So we tried to get the best finishes in the walls of the apartments, and we have to try different type of steps to get the ideal mix. And finally, we made it with this partnership with Cemex, getting this self-leveling concrete. Also in the quality control, we have to perform different tests when the mixers were arriving to the project. For all the mixers arriving to the project, we had to perform a slump and temperature test. And also for the different elements in the buildings and in different infrastructure, we have to do the compression test. For you guys to have an idea, we have more than 200,000 concrete compression tests. And also, we have more than 2,000 control points of different settlements in the slab of the foundations in the buildings. This video can show you guys how we try to control all the process in the construction regarding the gatum. We need to understand and analyze this material because this was the main material for the foundation of the buildings, trying to understand their physical and chemical properties. For that, we have to take the gatum to the laboratory and try to perform different tests to get their properties and find out the best way to work with it. Finally, to get to this excellence in the craft work, we were based in 4 important elements. The first one, was to try to think outside the box by creating, innovating, and making possible what for others was maybe impossible. We have to try it and keep performing to achieve the goal that we finally did in the project. Also, the human factor was the main component of the project. We always try to promote inclusion of the Colón's workforce. As I said before, 95% of the workers were from Colón. So we need to train them and become them in good workers, in skilled workers. Third, we have education for work and the continuous search for the improvement. We have to promote transversability and knowledge transfers with more than 150,000 man-hours of training in the project. And finally, we had to deliver a schedule rich for all stages, ensuring the expected profitability through quality, cost control, safety, and a total commitment to execute as planned and within the budget. And now I'm going to give the word to Liliana that is going to tell you guys about the urbanism and the architecture elements of the project. Thank you very much.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Liliana Lopera, soy arquitecta y soy la presidenta de gestión urbana, la firma líder de diseño. Para mí es un placer poder contarles cuál fue la filosofía y la estrategia y criterios de diseño que usamos en el proyecto. Empezaré contándoles que desde que tuvimos el reto de hacer el proyecto urbano de vivienda, nuestro objetivo era poder generar un urbanismo sostenible. Y en ese sentido, pues retomamos todos los criterios de ciudades sostenibles que tiene ONU Habitat, básicamente donde debemos generar espacios urbanos flexibles, espacios urbanos seguros, espacios urbanos saludables, incluyentes, con íntegros en términos de usos del suelo, productivos, verdes y planificados. En ese sentido, lo importante era poder tener un espacio que tuviera muchos espacios verdes. Pensemos que la normativa panameña establece que para este tipo de proyectos se debe dejar un 10% de espacio público en los proyectos de vivienda y nosotros tenemos en nuestro proyecto un 32% de espacio público. Eso pues marca la pauta de que el espacio público es el eje conductor del proyecto. El otro gran reto era mirar cómo a través de este urbanismo podíamos incluir también aspectos bioclimáticos. Panamá es un país y un territorio con un clima bastante fuerte y queríamos que pudiéramos aprovechar tanto la luz como todo el tema de brisas y hacer un entorno saludable y bioclimático. Es por eso que la disposición de todos los edificios, las manzanas, las calles fueron previstas a partir de ese análisis urbano que hicimos de bioclimática. Adicional a eso, todas las condiciones arquitectónicas de los edificios también tuvieron presente que pudiéramos tener ventilaciones cruzadas para evitar el alto consumo energético en aire acondicionado y que pudiéramos aprovechar al máximo los espacios públicos que fueran abiertos y con mucha brisa. Siguiendo con el tema del espacio público, para nosotros era muy importante tener presente algo, y es que el proyecto de renovación urbana va más allá de un proyecto de construcción de infraestructura, de viviendas. La construcción de viviendas no es el fin del proyecto, sino la construcción de comunidad. Y en ese sentido, el proyecto debía obedecer a un fortalecimiento social y comunitario. Tengamos presente que esto es un reasentamiento de familias que, como ya se dijo, vivían en el centro, y que cuando se hace un reasentamiento podemos romper esquemas sociales y culturales importantes en la vida cotidiana de las familias. Entonces, venir a un proyecto donde eran 5.000 familias, pues no íbamos a poder lograr esa cohesión social que la gente tenía en el centro, conociendo a su vecino y conociendo a la gente más cercana. Es por eso que el proyecto obedece a la conformación de parques barriales, que se volvieron los espacios colectivos importantes, y a lo largo de todo el proyecto distribuimos centros de manzana, donde más o menos calculábamos que entre 200 a 400 familias tuvieran un parque. ¿Por qué la importancia de ese parque? Porque en el barrio se fortalece, como decía, la cohesión social. En el barrio a mí me conocen, en el barrio a mí me ayudan, mi vecino me apoya. Y en estas comunidades con tanta fragilidad social, el vecino y la cohesión de comunidad, de pequeña comunidad que es el barrio, es muy importante para la coexistencia y para romper con esquemas que no generan posibilidades de desarrollo de vida. Así que para nosotros fue muy importante eso. Teniendo presente eso, entonces diseñamos los edificios de vivienda de dos maneras. Uno, para poder diferenciar los edificios que tuvieran apartamentos de 2 recámaras y otro y los que son de 3 recámaras. Entonces distribuimos los edificios en L y en H, como lo vemos en la imagen. Los edificios en L nos permitieron entonces crear esos centros de manzana, que a su vez son centros deportivos, donde en el centro de manzana teníamos además la posibilidad de que la gente intercambiara conocimientos. Es así como decidimos que en cada centro de manzana estuviera una cancha deportiva, un gazebo para las mujeres, áreas infantiles, y que todas las edades tuvieran un espacio en ese espacio común, y pudiera haber incluso transferencia de conocimientos, de cultura, de tradiciones de los mayores a los más pequeños, o de los jóvenes a los más pequeños. Aquí pues vemos las imágenes de cómo fue planificado en un inicio esos centros de manzana, y cómo hoy por hoy ya se ve el parque y se ve toda la relación que tiene con la arquitectura. Lo otro que era muy importante a tener presente en nuestro proyecto es que estamos hablando de familias que venían del centro acostumbradas y con una red de inseguridad importante, un poco también por la falta de oportunidades que tenían estas familias. Entonces, la primera condición que además buscábamos en el diseño tanto urbano como arquitectónico era romper con el miedo y romper con el estigma de que los proyectos de vivienda social son inseguros. Y siguiendo un poco como con esos objetivos de sostenibilidad, lo que hicimos fue, en términos urbanos, generar espacios amplios a través de los parques que les decía, pero que se comunicaban entre sí, porque además hay ciclorrutas, hay vías peatonales, sino además que todos esos espacios tienen 360 grados de visión. ¿Y por qué es importante el tema de visión? Hay una teoría que establece que entre más ojos vigilantes hayan en los espacios urbanos, más seguros son. Entre más gente haya, más seguro es el espacio urbano. Entonces, nos aseguramos que todos los espacios fueran planificados, no existen espacios residuales a nivel urbano, que son los que generan sitios de miedo. Y a nivel arquitectónico hubo 3 componentes a tener en cuenta importantes. El primero, que las escaleras fueran sitios visibles. Volvemos al tema de los ojos vigilantes. ¿Por qué las escaleras visibles? Porque nos encontramos que en otros ejercicios antiguos que se han hecho de vivienda vertical, de vivienda de interés social en Panamá, la escalera es un sitio oscuro y es un sitio de miedo, donde se generan condiciones no aptas y no seguras para la gente. Entonces, en la medida en que la escalera es visible, hay mucha gente pasando, mucha gente mirando, y se vuelve segura, rompe el miedo. El segundo elemento fueron las ventanas. Hay ventanas, si ustedes se fijan, en los edificios no hay paredes ni fachadas cerradas, todas las fachadas tienen ventanas, porque de esa manera también generamos condiciones de seguridad para lo urbano. Todas las calles tienen elementos de fachadas, ojos que miran desde adentro y eso genera seguridad. Y el tercer componente fueron los pasillos para acceder a las viviendas. Los pasillos, como lo veíamos tanto en la L como aquí en la H, son al aire libre y son visibles, siguiendo como con el mismo criterio de seguridad. Por último, y volviendo al tema de los objetivos de sostenibilidad, tenemos el componente de inclusión social y el componente de diversidad y del espacio urbano como tal, productivo para la gente. Ahí tuvimos una alta precaución de establecer todos aquellos usos que no eran residenciales y que pudieran generar condiciones distintas para la gente. Pensemos que eran familias que en su vida habían tenido una cancha para jugar, que no habían tenido acceso de pronto ni a las escuelas, que no tenían espacios culturales y mucho menos de pronto espacios productivos. Es así como entonces a lo largo de la vía principal y de esos pequeños parques que diseñamos, los parques barriales, se hicieron unos pequeños comercios que son complementarios a esos parques para que la gente pudiera tener actividades productivas como primer lugar. Segundo, la escuela, el colegio. Si ustedes ven a nivel urbano, es una gran rotonda que lo que hace no solamente es condicionarme la circulación vehicular y repartirme mucho mejor la movilidad vehicular en el proyecto, sino que se vuelve en el nodo o en el eje principal del proyecto, como la educación de manera indirecta estamos diciendo es lo que lo salva en términos sociales. Entonces, a lo largo del proyecto, si ustedes ven, hay comunicación directa con el colegio, porque es el centro, que complementado con un gran parque urbano, no solamente va a generar condiciones favorables para las 5.000 familias de Altos de los Lagos, sino que generará condiciones favorables para incluso las familias que viven en los alrededores. Para de esta manera no solamente generar condiciones positivas para las familias beneficiadas, sino para las familias que están en el sector. Entonces, de ese modo que pudimos crear nodos de desarrollo social que se vinculaban entre la actividad productiva, la cultural, la recreativa y la educativa. Como empresa de diseño y miembro del equipo que sacó adelante el proyecto, quiero agradecer a la revista y quiero decirles que para nosotros es un gran triunfo y una fortaleza como equipo y como firma de diseño haber podido estar nominados y ahora haber ganado el premio al mejor proyecto. Muchas gracias.
Thanks for that very informative presentation. I'd now like to bring in our global panelist for an audio Q&A. Let's take a listen.
For Bamboo Lane, you renovated the buildings while residents still occupied those buildings. So can you discuss the safety challenges related to that and how you solve them?
Well, we faced the biggest challenge was to work and do all the intervention in a multifamiliar buildings that house more than 400 families while they were living there. And the first lesson we learned is that when we start the works, we brought people from other areas to work, masons, laborers, steel reinforcers, and their own community requested us, look, we want to be part of this renovation. We want to be part of changing our living conditions. So what we had to do was to get these residents, train them as a construction worker, and put them to work while they were living in the same housing environment. So this challenge of training and managing the families, the social management of all these aspects was a big challenge. Also, when you have people that were living in these apartments, some of them were sick. So we had to do all testing because some of them had very contagious kind of disease. So we had to do a whole screening before we put our workers inside the apartment to do the water and the sewage connection on the kitchen and on the toilet, because all these infrastructure were already collapsed. So this was also something that we have to work together with the health assistants and social assistants in order for us to talk with the community and to bring the community of Bamboo Lane to become important part of this renovation of their own housing community.
And staying on the subject of safety, so you used a very local workforce, as you said, many of whom did not have previous construction experience. So can you talk a little about the training process, how you were able to make sure that this workforce could do their job safely?
Well, we had to train in different aspects. Like we said in the presentation here, we had 3 different components in the project. We had a component of urban infrastructure in downtown Cologne, which included a lot of heavy equipment and a lot of labor from the area in order to substitute the old water and sewage system and replace them with all these new pipelines. So what we had to do here, based on in the urban infrastructure component, was to train most people in order to work with excavation and all the piping system, as well all the changes and improvements we made in the pumping stations for water and the sewage system in downtown Cologne. For the historic heritage component, speaking about Bamboo Lane and the Cologne's municipal market, actually we had to train local residents or the actual vendors for them not only to be part of the construction, but also part of the design. And this, what we have to do is to create programs while doing the construction process, because we realized that the impact that we had to do was not only after the construction was ready, but actually during the construction phase of the project. And in Alto de los Lagos, most of the people that we hire from the local communities of La Playita, Sabanitas, Cativá, they didn't have all these experience of building in buildings and finishes of apartments. So what we created was different trades training sessions where we expended more than 5% of our whole manpower hours in training and qualifying the workers, but not only the workers. It also included a lot of investment of time to train the engineers, the managers, the administrative team, in order for them to pass this training to the local workers. And that's why most than 95% of our workers that participated in the project, they were from Cologne. So they had a chance of not only getting a better city, a new infrastructure, or a new apartment, but they had the chance to all these 5 years of training, more than 49 months of intensive training, not only in a training room, but also during the trades, during the daily works, to have a new profession. So they are ready now to move on with a sustainable opportunity of life in order for them to continue working so they can maintain their family, the quality of life of this new city of Cologne.
So how do you think the impact of this project will affect other needed upgrades in Panama?
We strongly believe that this project is a benchmark for new social interest housing developments here in Panama, not only in Cologne, but also in the entire country, where you can have a housing opportunity for low-income families, but with all the social aspects and all the opportunities that high-end class deserves. So this is a new benchmark of how a project needs to be developed, where they have to include all the social needs of the community so they can have an opportunity to increase and to improve, including not only the actual concrete works, but let's say the culture, the education, safety, a better quality of life. And this can be repeated or recreated in many other different communities here in Panama, which require a good quality and dignified quality of life, that which is one of the UN objectives of having fighting the poverty, fighting the difference in sustainable systems and cities. And that's the idea, is to integrate a project in a city that everybody of the project, not only after the construction, but since the beginning. That's the project that we believe is sustainable throughout the whole conception, construction, and delivery of the project.
Great. And then one final question. Based on all the work you did updating the sewer and stormwater systems, what advice would you give to other areas with older systems that are looking to transform their systems?
Yes, this was really an opportunity to improve the environmental quality of the city, and it has been going on in Panama since some time ago. The interest to have treatment for the sewage in Panama City, a very large wastewater treatment plant was built, and it's being expanded right now. So the concept behind the sewage and stormwater is finally the improvement of the environment. So the separation was tied to both doing the right engineering of the systems, but also having the sewage treated, which was one of the objectives. And as you can see, the project involved the construction and design of large treatment systems that were not in place at all. Also, from the perspective of the heavy rainfall that Colón has, it's something that it's also applicable to most of Panama, because we have like 3 meters of rainfall every year, everywhere, even more than that. So dealing with the stormwater systems and the river training is, which is something that we did in Panama City, is something that it's absolutely applicable to the rest of the Panama City. So it's an example of environmental improvement and municipal improvement everywhere.
Thank you for your insight. It looks like our time is up. I wanted to thank you all again for this great discussion. And for our audience, feel free to continue the conversation on the discussion boards on the virtual event platform Evolve, where you'll be directed to once this presentation ends. And I'd like to thank our sponsors once again. They are Global Gold sponsors, American Global, BL Harbor, CCECC, China Civil Engineering and Construction Corporation, and ENCA, and our Global Silver sponsors, OEC, Odebrecht Engineering and Construction, and Shanji Construction Investment Group Company Limited. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.